Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to our overly ostentatious studios here at DATV, and we welcome you to What's Happening Dracut. Today is Wednesday, August 23rd, 2023, and this is our 54th episode. How about that, folks? Wow.
They haven't taken us off yet.
Well, the free speech advocates who only want their free speech are trying, and they will continue to try. But tonight we are bringing you a live show in studio, and we are celebrating the day that we're coming down to the end of summer. And there's a lot of different people online saying that they're sad, they're leaving their overly ostentatious camping sites and their vacation homes and what have you. And those of us from Dracut that go down to Nantucket are sad that we can't go to Nantucket. But we thank you for joining us tonight. And this is the place where you're going to get the truth of what you won't get anywhere else in the town or on cable access television. Some of those other fluff shows that claim they get thousands and thousands of viewers, but only have 4. And one of them is from this show. But folks, we're coming to you here tonight. We have a great studio cast of characters, and we're ready to rock and roll. We're going to talk about a wide range of issues, including some national issues that are going on and international issues. But mostly we're going to focus on local school committee, school board things and stuff that's going on in town. You can reach us by calling us on the little telly, as they say over the pond, by calling 978-458-4342. Or is it 4243?
957.
957.
4243.
Let's do this again.
All right, here we go. We're going to do it
It's
again.
on the screen. Just read on the screen.
Call us at 978-957-4243 and get in on the action.
Have your payment ready.
I'm a little slow tonight. I'm a little tired, to be honest with you. It's been a long week or so here.
John, you don't have COVID, do you?
No, I don't have COVID, but I'm kind of feeling like, I said to my wife, I feel a little bit tired tonight, so I won't give you any wet kisses tonight.
All right, that's good.
Maybe on the cheek. But you can also join us on Facebook, because we are live on Facebook right now, and you can catch us there, and Phil has the comment section open so that we can get you in on the discussion and make your comments known without you having to come on the show. And we are also, Gordy Scott is the guru of all YouTube things here for us.
Yes.
You can get us on YouTube, right?
Yeah, we have a YouTube channel, What's Happening Dracut. You can watch all of our past episodes if you like, or you can also go to dracuttv.org. We have all our episodes up there as well. But if you have YouTube on your smart TV, just go to YouTube, type in What's Happening Dracut. You'll see all of us here with all our previous episodes.
Or you can just go there just to have your lawyer go there to make sure that we're not, bashing you, as some people say. We only come here and tell you the truth. We only try to tell the truth, or what we think is the truth, right?
Right.
So tonight on this show, we have a cast of characters like nobody else. We have a young guy.
We got the full cast back.
We got the full cast for the first time. By the way, hey, I'm looking in the camera. I look pretty good on you.
Yeah, you got a nice tan going.
I got a little tan going on, and I don't even use any makeup like other hosts of other shows that go in front of their beautiful mirror here at DATV.
Mirror on the wall.
And they put their makeup on. I have no propensity to want to put makeup on. So what you see, folks, is what you get. But we have with us the guy who I coined the phrase is our cub reporter because of his youthfulness. But I want to tell you something. I won't question his ability to have a cogent conversation with adults and be right maybe 98% of the time. Of course, when he's with me, it's about 50% of the time. But we have the cub reporter with us tonight, first time in a month, Richard Silvio.
Hello, folks. I'm happy to be back. And John, let me tell you, the moment I wake up, before I put on my makeup, I say a little prayer for you.
Oh,
I have been to Mississippi. I am back. Oh, where's the light?
It's there.
It's somewhere.
No, it's
There you
there.
go.
It's right over
It's
there.
on the green
I
light.
am back. I've had my trip down south. I am energized. I've been working. I've been going to church. I've been all over the place, and it's good to be on the show.
All right. And alongside of him is the #1 guy in Dracut that is the subject of castigation constantly, not even a remote possibility that anybody else is on his radar screen, but he's the constant subject of castigation by another host on another not so good show on Dracut Access Television. But he's here tonight because he's our #1 guy as far as I'm concerned, and the cast here love him. And of course, because of that, there are people that will never vote for him. Phil Thibault!
Hey! Oh, they had Gordy for a second.
Whoa!
We're trying to fool. trick
Yeah, I
people.
suppose, gotcha.
I changed it up. I changed it up a little bit. But yeah.
Yeah.
So how you doing, Phil?
Sunday I was doing some yard work at the request of my wife.
Yep.
And I'm pulling up some weeds, and this particular vine was going into a patch of daylilies, and all of a sudden I see this insect coming at me, and I try to brush it away. Well, it was a yellow jacket, and it stung me on the eyelid.
Oh, I thought I thought a human bit you.
Could be, could be. But what a wallop, that's for sure.
And
So it's been quite the trial over the past couple of days.
have you had a good summer though? Otherwise,
Otherwise, yes.
is your
I
architectural
was.
business being well? By the way, can you talk about yourself a little bit tonight?
I could if you
Just,
want.
because-
I'm not one to just talk about myself. If you have a question, I can talk about it.
According to other sources, that's all you like to do. is talk about yourself.
It's.
But they don't know you like
They don't
I
know
you.
me. Yeah.
Like, I used to give you a boot in the butt all the time. You got to pat yourself on the back once in a while if you're going to be a politician, right?
Absolutely. And I have learned a little better. You have to admit.
You are.
But it's ingrained into my personality that.
But as far
I'm
as
fairly
I'm
quiet.
concerned, but as far as I'm concerned, your loss of not being on either the board of selectmen or the school board is Dracut's loss.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's as simple as that. It's Dracut's loss, right? But that's the problem is we don't have a majority of Dracut who get involved.
So I mean, everybody knows I tried to get on the zoning bylaw review committee,
Right.
And I was certainly denied that ability to be a voting member. But I assured members of the committee themselves and a couple of people in administration that I would attend every meeting because the voice is more important than the vote.
That's right.
So I have been at every meeting and very vocal, and the members of that committee have been appreciative, and they've told me so directly.
Some people have told you, I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, that they consider you really a part of the committee without really being a part of the committee.
That is correct. That is correct.
Good. But to my left is the guy who's known as the Teflon Don of Dracut Access Television. But he's another guy that can't get an appointment to a position in Dracut because of his outspokenness in Dracut politics, because that's what they do here. They're certainly not, the politicians in Dracut are certainly not like Abe Lincoln. Right? Abraham Lincoln, the statesman that he was, he would embrace his enemies and bring them on board. A lot of times it shuts them up, right? And a lot of times it gets you, to conform.
Great.
But the Teflon Don is here tonight, Gordy Scott.
Thank you. I'm happy to be back on the show. It's great.
Did you go out to Wisconsin cheese country?
Not yet. We'll be coming up. Our trip is coming up shortly.
Ooh, I thought you might have gone by now.
No, well, I had my doctor's, my annual physical a couple days
Did you get
ago.
the proctology report back?
I do have to go for another one of those.
Oh.
So, and I have like 7 appointments now. I can't keep them all straight.
Oh.
But the worst news, I haven't told you guys this yet, but now I found out I have DLS.
DLS?
Yes.
DLS.
It's dry lip syndrome because
Dry lip-
Jen isn't kissing me. So, but the good news is the doctor says that if your wife kisses you more, it will go away.
Well, after tonight, you'll get a lot of kisses, but it won't be the kind of kisses you're going to want to get. Trust me. So, as I said before, if you want to join in the fun, if you have something to push back on us, call us, text us, send us a little something on Facebook. But we're raring to go, and we're going to get started as soon as we hear from our #1 ace weather reporter and a weatherman from Dracut, Massachusetts, who has become a lot of different resources for a lot of different people, and that's Sean Kelly of
Mill City Weather.
Mill City Weather, folks. Take it away, Sean.
Hi guys, thanks for having me on tonight. And here's the forecast for tonight. It's going to drop into the mid to upper 50s tonight with partly cloudy conditions. Winds won't be that bad at 5 to 10 miles an hour. Then as we head into the day on Thursday, probably the pick of the week, high temps near 80 degrees, 76 for us back here in the Merrimack Valley. Sun and clouds, very nice day overall. And then as we head into Thursday night, transfer of some rain and some thunderstorms. This is going to be from Hillary, which was affecting the west coast. That is going to be into our neck of the woods as we head into Thursday and Friday. Could bring some heavy rain, maybe 1 to 2 inches, maybe up to 3 inches in some isolated locations. But I think a majority of us are going to pick up between 1 inch to 2 inches. So rain and thunderstorms as we head into Thursday night. Then as we head into the day on Friday, unsettled, transfer a few showers and maybe some embedded thunderstorms as we head into the second part of the day on Friday. Then as we head into Friday night, cloudy, transfer a thunderstorm maybe early, and then I think we're going to clear it out as we head past 8 or 9 o'clock on Friday night. Winds going to be coming out of the north at 10 to 15 miles an hour, so it will be gusty as we head into the evening on Friday night. Here's a look at your exclusive 8-day forecast. Thursday, your pick of the week, high temps near 80 degrees. Friday, those showers and thunderstorms around. Then as we head into the weekend, very nice, 75 on Saturday, and high temps near 80 degrees as we head to the middle of next week. And that is the forecast for now, everyone. Back to you guys in the studio.
Thank you, Sean, for that excellent forecast. We can see the weather's changing, folks, right?
Yes.
You can see how the
Surprise,
weather's changing.
surprise, more rain though.
More, of course.
More rain.
But you know, they say that the more rain we have in the summer, the more brilliant the colors are in the trees in the fall. Is that true? I'm going to go to my resident expert in all
Useless
things
information.
useless information.
That is true.
There
because,
you go.
because the trees are very well hydrated, and you need the saps to get up into the leaves where the sugars are made.
Right.
And when the temperature drops down low after a warm day, it produces a more brilliant color.
So while Ubering this week, I had an Iranian gentleman in my car who has not been to Iran in over 42 years. He immigrated from Iran to Canada 42 years ago, and 20 years ago he immigrated with his family and his wife from Vietnam to the United States. And he was in my car and he was telling me how he wants his wife and him to go on a vacation. And he says, where would you suggest in New Hampshire or Vermont or Maine? Where would you suggest for a fall vacation? And I told him the best place to go would be Vermont. But you could also drive right across from Vermont and go over to the Maine seacoast in the meantime and see. And he said, well, what's the best time? I says, peak is October 12th, around there?
Yeah, mid-October.
Columbus Day weekend?
Yep.
So he was excited to do that. Yeah. And by the way, he was here legally. And he agreed. He opened the conversation. I normally don't talk politics, but he opened the conversation because I asked him what he does. He's from Washington, D.C., and I'm very, very, very careful about talking about politics when I have somebody in the car from Washington, D.C., because it's the bastion of liberalism, right? Yes. But he sarcastically said to me when I asked him, what brought you to the United States and what brought you to go down to Washington, D.C.? He says, because I love your politicians so much. And I gave him radio silence. And he says, well, I thought that would give you a little rise. And I says, well, it did, but I don't know how to take that. He says, well, it was a sarcastic remark. That opened the floodgates right there. and I just, but anyways, he was a very good gentleman. And nice. Even better because he left me a good tip. So, anyways, we got to get on to some more important things such as birthdays and celebrations that are coming up or that are here. Mm-hmm. And I wanted to send out a special message to a special friend of What's Happening Dracut, who has a birthday today. Does everybody know who that is?
Absolutely.
It's
Yeah.
Tammy Dristaleris. So impromptu, I haven't even told the guys I'm going to ask them to do this, but we're going to sing happy birthday
Oh,
to
no.
Tammy
Sing it.
Dristaleris.
All right, people, mute your TVs.
3.
Happy birthday to you.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Tammy. Happy birthday to you.
Maybe you
How
should be a
old
quarter-
are you?
Maybe we should
Barbershop Quartet, yeah.
Yeah.
Hey,
Swanee
congratulations.
That
Congrats.
wasn't bad.
You don't look a day over 21, my friend.
Tammy the Shark Dristaleris.
There
I
you
love
go.
you.
There you go. So it's her birthday today. Do we have anybody else that we need to celebrate? Anybody on the panel?
My son's girlfriend's.
Oh,
she
is they watching? You want us to sing happy birthday to her?
Yeah, no.
What
One
is-
time's enough.
Is she 18?
Nope, she will be 23 years old.
23. And how old is Kyle?
Just turned 24 in July.
Wow. Congratulations,
Yes,
Kyle. You
happy
got to keep her
birthday.
there. Happy birthday. And anything else that we need to talk about?
And I want to congratulate my son, who might be watching. He passed the Security Plus exam, so
Awesome.
that's great. So he's going for he'll get his top secret clearance now at work, and
Oh,
he's
Excellent.
up for a big promotion.
he can move up into one of the,
Yes.
maybe be an underling to you.
Yeah,
Isn't that
pretty cool.
Isn't that, what do they call it? Well, that's
Following the your
following
father's
in the footsteps of the dad, but as opposed to being, it's nepotism, isn't it? Oh, no, that's networking.
Networking.
That's
right.
taking somebody who's qualified, because it's not politics, right?
We just work for the same company, but we're not in the same department.
Oh,
so that's
okay.
good. You know,
But we know how we got the job. But that's okay. That's
good
okay.
recommendation.
That's okay. So, any other events or things that we need to talk about? I know that we have Old Home Day coming up, Phil. Why don't you tell the folks a little bit about what's going on?
So Old Home Day, it's the, I think the 21st or 22nd. It started in 2001. They did skip a year with COVID.
Right.
This year it's being held on September 9th at the school complex from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m.
And what will someone that wants to go to Old Home Day see?
What won't they see?
I know. They'll see us.
There are vendors there
Makes it worth it.
selling different wares. There's lots of food trucks and food vendors there. Quite a few restaurants from the area have set up a little food booth. There's
sporting teams.
sporting teams. DATV certainly will be there with the van.
They are sold out.
They are sold out, so
And-
every vendor spot is taken.
They have entertainment.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah.
And there's all
Singers and
kinds of food.
dancers.
Yeah,
and
it's a great.
Music.
it is. It
It's a
is.
great
And-
take, and it's a
Yep.
great thing that goes on.
It's a nice celebration of the community because everything pretty much is community based.
Yep.
And on Old Home Day, I am happy to announce that Gay Corey is going to be making her return to
Oh.
the screen. I'm going to be her cameraman for the afternoon.
Okay.
So I think that'll be great for the community to see
Good.
her back getting involved.
That's awesome. That's awesome to get her back into the swing of things, so to speak. She's famous for doing those kinds of
Her
with
and
her
her
and her husband.
Wonderful husband, Bob.
Bob.
Right.
God rest his soul.
Yep, but it's good to hear that she's getting back involved. Some of the things that go on that day, DATV has their truck down there. We have our live band there, and we have different shows that we're gonna be on, I think, at 11 o'clock, folks. So remember that.
Yep.
11 a.m. and we'll be there for whatever it is, an hour,
Yeah,
hour and a half.
and I'd also like to mention that the firefighters have essentially firefighter day too.
Yep.
And
Oh, yes.
They have a van there for the kids for home safety, and there's kind of like a field test to become a
pretty
firefighter.
cool. That's
It
pretty
is.
neat.
It is.
Police
They do a
have a
great
SWAT
job.
truck, I believe, too.
They do. Nemlac usually has a truck.
And they
So-
have a car show down there, and the
They do.
5K
Just-
run in the
just-
morning.
There's a lot to do. They cram a lot into one day.
And one event that did happen that we didn't get a chance to discuss was the Lowell Folk Fest.
Yes,
Oh,
I did it. I did attend.
Really?
Yep.
Yeah. I was there with the shrine. I had never been before. I was told that it was a record low turnout.
We had a rain
can't
day.
confirm
Saturday was pouring rain pretty
That's
much all
right.
day.
So
Yeah.
I thought it was a bunch of fun. It was great music. All the concerts were free. A lot of great food. Yeah.
Now
it was a
listen,
lot of fun.
Richard and
Oh,
Phil
boy.
and Gordy, we can't get too positive here. If we say too many nice things about Dracut, then he can't get bashed for being so negative about Dracut.
I can tell you something negative about Folk Fest if you'd like.
Let's keep it on the high level here
Okay.
today until we get into the real meat of the conversation today, because we're going to do it. We're going to get into it.
So as far as Old Home Day, I'll pat myself a little on the back here. I wrote an article. Yeah, I know. I wrote an article. It's in the Valley Patriot. I've also pasted it to my Facebook page, Phil Thibault for Dracut, and shared it with What's Happening Dracut. So if you want to read an article about Old Home Day, it's there.
Yeah, it's awesome.
And I believe Inside Lowell will be publishing it next week.
Oh, that's cool. That's awesome. I have a couple of, I have one article to go to Inside Lowell that's in the can. I'm working on another one. And one of the two articles is a follow-up on this appointment that we're going to be discussing later on the school board. And I also have one on the budget woes here in Dracut and how that's going to be shaping up as we go forward into the fall season.
We have a comment?
We do.
From George. Tammy says thank you.
Oh, you're welcome, Tammy. You're so welcome. I know they're in the car on their way back from Maine, and we will be having dinner after the show. Are you joining us tonight? Or
I may.
You're in?
As long as
We're all in?
At an undisclosed
as long as I get home
location.
for the debate at
Oh,
9.
well, I've got that being
DVR?
taped, yeah. And I wanted to watch, I'm more likely to watch the former President Trump, the 4-time indicted President Trump.
Former president.
He'll be on with Tucker Carlson tonight on X. And I'm gonna make a prediction that Tucker will have more viewers on his show than Fox will have on their debate that they've been hyping for 3 weeks. It's sickening.
You might be right.
Been hyping,
you may be right.
So anyways, let's get into some of the discussion of tonight. We're going to talk about some things about all Dracut, some news, some Board of Selectmen stuff, we'll go around the horn, okay? First off, we want to talk a little bit about Betty Ann Lane, right? 67, is it 167 or
167.
167 Betty Ann Lane. Do you know that there's an update?
From my understanding, I read it in the paper that 167 Betty Ann Lane is up for sale.
Mm-hmm. Yes, it is.
So,
what do you think is that as a result of it?
Well, essentially, I guess the owner is saying, I'm taking my soccer ball and I'm going somewhere else.
They ran him out of town.
Terrorize another neighborhood.
They ran him out of town. Right? No, I'm saying that the town ran him out of town, not the neighborhood. The neighborhood was 100% right about what was going on, in my view, up there. It was beyond belief. Such a nice neighborhood was being really decimated by something that should not have happened. And I blame that on majority of the Board of Selectmen and the town hall, because they weren't using the tools they have to full fruition, to get them to do what's right here in town. What say you there, Gordy?
I agree. I mean, that's the thing is it seemed to me the town was bending over backwards for the people, which, you can do that, but after, you've warned them once, you've warned them twice, and they continue to do it, it's time to lay the law down. I think they waited 3 or 4 times, and then they laid the law down.
But they really didn't lay the law down, because
the
they talked
police
about,
chief said,
this is what we're going to do, and this is what we're going to do. And
Yep.
it was such a joke, really. It was such a joke on how they did that stuff. I mean, I remember when I was on the Board of Selectmen, we had a house in, I think it was in, in Kenwood, that was boarded up, but had become a house full of cats.
Yes, on Sesame Street.
Remember
Sesame
that?
Street, yeah.
On Sesame Street. And I put in a request, and I kept bringing it up all the time, forcefully, to
That
get
took a
that
long
thing.
time, though.
It took a long time, but there was action.
Yes.
They went
Oh,
down
no,
there
correct.
and they got the cats out of there.
Correct.
And I mean,
That was a horror story, though.
it was a horror story for that neighborhood. But all
And
of
then
this
we
stuff,
had if you remember too, they had the house on Broadway Road that was doing, every weekend was doing a rummage sale
yes.
out in front, and it was causing traffic issues, and
Where was that one? I can't remember.
That was right down near Dunkin' Donuts.
Oh,
on
okay.
Broadway, going 113, going out.
Yeah. And what did they do with that?
They gave them a couple warnings, and they continued to have it, and then I think they passed a law that
You can't have.
you
more
have to
than
have
one.
a $50. There's a $50 charge now to have a rummage sale in Dracut. That was on the town
Really?
meeting.
I know there was talk about it. I do remember that.
I don't know if
if
that
it ever
passed.
I don't know if it ever passed.
I don't think it passed
But
because.
it was on the warrant article. I thought it passed, but I could
But I
be
think
wrong.
they did something about. They were saying that you have a right to have a yard sale.
Yep.
But you don't have a right to open a business and run a business week after week,
Week
after
after
week
week
after
after
week
week.
after week. I agree with that.
Yeah.
You know, it shouldn't be every week. But it is what it is, right? So it wouldn't surprise me, though, that, you know, the Constitution ends at the line of Dracut, that they would try to force somebody to not have a yard sale.
I think
in Dracut.
Lowell has a yard sale permit.
Yeah.
I
see?
think.
Really? Research that and come back next show for that, okay? Sandbar. What's going on with the sandbar there, Philip? Anything? All quiet
From
on
my
the western front?
understanding, yeah, it's been fairly quiet.
Summer's waning.
Yeah, but I heard there was a video that popped up and has been sent over to the town regarding some sort of argument, loud argument.
In the middle of the street?
Yeah, I think so. I'm not sure.
Oh.
I haven't necessarily seen it yet,
Involving-
but I've heard it.
Involving who? Patrons or neighborhood people?
I only heard it. I didn't actually watch the video.
Okay. Well, we have made an offer. We've put an offer out there. We haven't heard back, but Sandbar was watching us the last time we had our show, and we talked about this, that we would host a town meeting style
Right,
meeting
between the
here,
neighbors.
either here at the studio or wherever they want to do it, and we'll moderate it and allow the community to tell the owners of that how they're feeling, and that owner should listen to it to be a good neighbor. And they'll say that they've listened to everything, but the hits just keep coming up there. So they need to do something about that, and that's another thing where I blame the town for that.
Absolutely. So you know, a special permit is granted by the Board of Selectmen to essentially continue the use as a club. That's arguable. I think it's being used as a restaurant, which is a for-profit organization, although a club is supposed to be a non-profit organization. So
What type of a club has a one-day permit?
you don't see it very often. I mean, you go to the Lanham Club in Andover.
Yeah.
They don't have a one-day permit, and they have a nice restaurant there. But
Yeah, see? Well, you know, it's definitely a restaurant as far as I'm concerned. But anyways, we're going to move on. So Richard, tell us about how you feel about people who point to you and say, I judge you by the friends you keep.
You know, John, it really used to get to me. I'll tell you that, because a lot of it obviously is tied in with politics. And I find that when I'm speaking to older people, if they're conservative, I'm wise beyond my years. But if they're liberal, I'm just a punk kid who doesn't know what he's talking about.
Right.
So I learned not to take it seriously. But personally, I think it's ridiculous.
Yep.
You know, I have most of my friends are adults, but they're diverse from all different backgrounds. So to define me by the people I associate with, I think is hogwash.
But do you think, Phil, that somebody should, because you're accused of this too, as am I,
yeah.
and as is Gordy, as he's been lambasted over that. But you get a lot of it too in politics, right?
yeah.
Isn't the liberalism, don't they espouse that you should be inclusive and not be judgmental of somebody, whether you're bald or you have a beard or you hang out with John Zimini?
Yes, yes. So being inclusive means that you agree with me,
Right.
but not the other way around. You can't have your own idea because you're excluded for that. So there's no inclusion other than as long as we're all thinking the same thing, then we're being diverse and inclusive.
Right.
But you think outside that, and there's no tolerance for that. So where is the no tolerance zone really supposed to be?
Well, these people, Gordy, that have signs on their lawn that hate doesn't live here, those are the first people to point to you and say, Gordy Scott, you're not getting that basketball job because of the people you hang around with.
That's right.
Right?
That's
and
correct.
and how does that make you feel about your friends? You have a lot more friends than just this group.
Right, correct.
We all do. We don't all have just this group in all politics.
And I have friends that most people would not be friends with.
Right.
People that have been to jail, people that have done drugs, people that have rehabilitated themselves, that, most people say, why would you hang out with that person? They're a lowlife, or why would you do? It's because that's what Jesus would do. Mm-hmm. When my wife's always said to me, when we have an argument about something, I say to her, or she says to me, what would Jesus do? And I said, that's what Jesus would do.
Right. But Jesus.
So if you can't do that to somebody else, I'm not going to judge someone, because I could also be judged in the same manner, right? Yeah. I'm not perfect. I've made mistakes, right?
Yeah,
I think
we all
everyone
have.
has. So
if anybody in this world hasn't made a mistake, they're probably not living.
Right,
They're not
exactly.
living. But the bottom line is you talk about Jesus,
Yep.
but Jesus also in the Bible, it says that do unto others as they would do unto
Correct.
you, right? So that excuse for you saying, I don't like you because you hang around with Phil Thibault, or you hold signs for Phil Thibault, or you think about, you think that Richard Silvio is a kid that shouldn't have an opinion
Right.
on, let's say, abortion or anything.
Right.
So because Richard is 19 and he has an opinion on abortion, he gets lambasted by some people, right?
It's beautiful. John, on the topic of Jesus, because I just went through the RCIA
Yep.
program, which is basically the equivalent of CCD for adults at St. Francis. And obviously there's a lot to learn. I'm not claiming to be an expert in anything, right? But from
Which
what
you're
I-
not, right? Exactly. That's
What?
okay. But none of us are.
Cha-chang. Oh, you're going to purgatory for that one. The concept I'm really grasping through the class was that, everything is through love. You love the sinner, but you hate the sin, right?
Right.
Section 25 of the Catechism of the Catholic Church says, do everything in charity and everything in love.
Right.
And you have to love yourself, and you have to love and respect your body, and you have to love and respect your brothers and sisters, right? There are some things that are intrinsically evil, like abortion,
Right.
like rape, like child abuse, where it can never be right in any situation. But there are so many other things that are black and white that you have to leave up to your interpretation.
No, Richard, we had an exchange. I had an exchange
Yes.
with an individual who watches our show and comes on our Facebook page, and they were talking, and I welcome it, folks.
Absolutely.
I welcome it. And sometimes I'll get into a deep discussion with those people. I'm not going to mention the name. They can go on our Facebook page and try to search it out. But I did a couple of back and forth with this person, and you could tell that the person was just one-sided. That your opinion doesn't count because of you don't agree with that. You don't agree with the overall spectrum of what she might have.
Well, you know what, John?
talking
I
about.
saw, when I read that, I saw a person who's filled with hatred, who they worship themselves, they hate themselves, they hate the world around them, and they just want to bring everybody down with them.
Right.
That's what I saw.
So Richard came by my house a couple days ago, and we went out for a little ride around town, and we talked about this briefly, right? But and he thanked me for defending him. And believe me, Richard, I wasn't defending you. I'm just defending the truth, right? And the truth of the matter
Thanks,
is
John.
that person also said that had told Phil that they couldn't vote for Phil because of the friends they keep.
Sure.
How small-minded and narrow-minded can you be when you do things like that?
Yeah, I responded to that, and one of the things I said that if a discussion about friendship would be very interesting at another time, because why do you make friends with people, and what do you expect out of a relationship like that, or a friendship? If none of you will be offended by it, what my mother once asked me, why do you take home all the strays?
All the what?
All the strays.
Yep.
Essentially I guess she would consider them odd people.
Right.
And I said, because everybody needs a friend.
Right.
That was the only reason.
Right. But I don't consider myself a stray.
No,
I just
no,
and neither do you, I'm
No,
sure.
no,
But nobody here is a stray. But
No.
I understand the concept of that, right? Because we all.
If you knew
get
my
into
friends
that.
back then,
Okay, yeah.
you would understand
Well, I've
what
had some
you
of
were
those
saying.
friends, too.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely.
Why was I such a close ally with a guy who turned to be the Judas of Dracut? Right? As far as I'm concerned, backstabbing everybody that's in this room right here at one point or another.
So I'll just get on one last philosophical level on that,
Yeah.
and I believe that people come into your lives and they come in and they leave at the specific times that they're supposed to.
Right.
So when somebody leaves, whatever they were there for, or you were there for them, has
Right.
been accomplished or
Right.
finished.
Not to sidetrack too much,
Yep.
I got a response on the yard sale permit for Lowell.
Yep.
This is a Lowell Sun article that came out in 2010,
Yep.
posted by Jennifer Myers, my colleague actually, great woman. And this is from the People's Republic of Lowell.
Yeah.
It says, mind you, 2010, under the new regulations, residents must obtain a permit from the city 3 days prior to the yard sale and are limited to holding 3 yard sales each year. Additionally, signs advertising the sale must be removed at the end of the day for which the sale is held.
Well, I wonder if that regulation or ordinance
It's still in effect.
is constitutional.
I would think
and
not.
It may be, because I agree that things need to be regulated to some extent, right? And do they have to pay for that permit?
That I do not know.
So we'll have to see if Jen can come back, because again, here's another opportunity to expand your revenue by getting permits for this stuff, even if it's $5 or something. But they won't charge $5 for a bike license with all the nuisances that they cause on the city streets.
I saw a
and town
comment on
streets.
Facebook about Old Home Day,
Yep.
and someone said, "Are the teenagers going to do a wheelie display at Old Home Day?"
The teenagers, yeah, that's usually what happens, right? But we have some people that are watching that at one time were our friends, but because of politics, they became our nemesis, or we became their nemesis, right? Because we were outspoken. There are some people on here now watching us, which I like to see, by the way. I like to see that they come in and watch. It just expands their horizons a little bit, because we give them a little more knowledge. But as we leave this subject and move on to the next, I just wanted to talk briefly about how that person that wrote all those things that I had the exchange with really doesn't know me,
No.
because she assumed that I agree with your stand on no abortions.
Sure.
To the stand. I consider myself a conservative person, but I don't consider myself overly conservative and an extreme conservative. I've always been a fiscal conservative, even when I was a Democrat and on the Board of Selectmen. I still am a fiscal conservative in a lot of ways, but I am moderate in social issues, like abortion, for instance. Abortion is something that I always believed was a woman's right, to a point. And I used to have this conversation with my daughters, because my daughters went to Catholic school, and they were strict against abortionists. And I used to say abortions, and I used to say, you can't be that rigid on anything, really, that will tell you that you're not going to accept a tragedy somewhere along the line. Because sometimes it's necessary to terminate a child for the life of the mother or the life of the child. And for someone to say that to me, a person who has personal experience in this, right, that it upset me to the point where I had to respond. And I did. So I hope I responded respectfully. I still respect that person's opinion. They know who they are. If they're watching, they can reach out, whatever. I asked her if they wanted to have coffee with me, and they said, well, what would that accomplish? There's another indication of how small-minded you are.
That's what if you remember, back in 9/11, no one liked people from the Middle East.
Yeah.
Because of they bombed the World Trade Center. Well, if you're that small-minded, I can't like any. Or during World War II, they didn't like any of the Japanese people because they bombed Pearl Harbor.
Right.
Or during World War I, when Hitler killed all the Jews, and you can't like any Germans at all because because of what
but there is an inherent human trait in all of us that will make us suspect of people of certain backgrounds because of what those backgrounds represent. right? So, but you don't lump them all into one, in my view.
Right.
You know, like I had that Iranian guy in my car, and the guy was a good guy, right? And I'm sure they thought that way when my grandfather and grandmother came over on the boat from Poland, you know, and that they thought, these are strange people coming over here from Poland.
Well, I think too there are extremes, you know, on both sides when it comes to judging people and stereotyping.
Right.
You know, it's one thing to look through the window shades of your home and be a little suspicious of a new next door neighbor. But it's another thing for President Roosevelt to round up all Japanese people on the East Coast and send them to the Midwest to stay in more or less concentration camps. You know, there's definitely a medium there.
Right, yeah, exactly. If you're a Japanese person and you were here during World War II when they...
It was hell for you. It was hell.
You know, it was not a good thing for Japanese to be here on our soil. And again, that's because of ignorance, and the world has evolved since then. And I don't believe you'd see that, although you might see that with
I think it's
Republicans.
worse today. I think it's worse.
You might see Republicans rounded up, you know?
You know how many people would like to see the four of us in a concentration camp?
Oh, absolutely.
And I know who would be running the camp, too.
Yeah, exactly. I want to just mention, move on to the next subject, and we'll talk about some, you know, I don't normally pay attention to what's said on other cable TV shows here at DATV, but recently I had somebody reach out to me and say, did you hear what so-and-so said on that other disconnect show or whatever it's called? And, you know, the attack that the chairman of the Dracut Board of Selectmen's husband laid on you and Tony Archinsky, and in some form or fashion on DATV. I mean, he is a guy who thrives, gets excited about bashing people. And he sits there and he says, oh, you know, that other show, that's all they do is bash. They criticizes you, Phil, for saying that, you know, Dracut is becoming a bad place or whatever, right? I forget the exact words he used, that you call it Sleepy Hollow or whatever. You know,
To be honest, I've always thought I've been a very good advocate for Dracut.
You have been.
I'm very much community oriented.
but in the way of a guy who believes he's a media guy, and of course he's in politics. He's on the Republican town committee, and he's on the state committee. And God, I hope that they wake up and throw him the hell off of there.
Is he still chair of the town?
Yes.
You know,
As far as
I
I
mean, there's only 4 people that are on the committee that go. So him and his wife and 2 other people, and I'm sure they're butt kissers that are there to put him back in. But that isn't going to always be the way it's going to be, because there's an election coming up in '24, and I'm sure that somebody's going to challenge him. But some of the things that he says, and he disparages anybody that would dare run against his wife or run for the Board of Selectmen because they have different ideas or they have different approaches. For instance, he referred to Phil recently, and it's not me speaking because I don't think this at all, but he referred to Phil as, you know, having lost a race for housing authority, and then he went on and lost the next 9 races in the Board of Selectmen, which he's wrong, by the way.
He is wrong.
Because you ran for selectmen before you ran for housing.
Correct.
And I know that, but the viewers don't know that. The
Yeah.
viewers don't know that. But how do you feel when you hear that stuff, Phil? Does it hurt you at all?
No, because, you know, every time I've run, I've attained well over 1,000 votes every time. So it's not as if I'm kind of, you know, dead last and only receiving essentially the votes from
You're
my
not George
family.
Boag.
No.
You're not George Boag.
So, you know,
that can't get over 500 votes on anything.
and I meet so many people that acknowledge the times that I've run and they tell me, keep going. You're gonna win. You fight for us, and that's how I feel about it. It's like, you know, again, like when I was talking about the zoning bylaw review committee, where I said it's really not the vote that matters; it's the voice. So I will continue to be a voice for a large population in Dracut that believe they're not being heard.
Do you think that's a good trait? Gordy?
Yep.
And somebody?
Yep.
If-
My wife tells me that all the time. Never give up. Tells my son that every day. Never give up.
Your wife posts that.
Yeah.
I dream it at night when I see it on the Facebook. I never give up, and it gives me an impetus to want to continue what I continue, even though I know that I'm getting. Let's say when you reach my age, you get a little bit long in the tooth, right? And you're thinking to yourself, well, there's going to be a time when you back off, and then I say, that's what they want.
Yeah, there's a point that you feel like you're Sisyphus and you're pushing that rock up the hill and it's going to roll back, and it does roll back, and you head down the hill, and there's a group of people there who are saying, keep pushing it. We believe in you.
So Boag says to Brian, I'll tell you, the guy isn't somebody I would let one of my daughters date. You look at some pictures of that guy. But the bottom line is, and I don't mean to disparage his looks because it's just fact, right? But the bottom line is that he's lucky to have won any election, because he's probably second or third most hated person in town. People won't admit it, won't say it to him because his wife is in a position of power, and we know how they are.
Or that poison pen that he operates.
Right, the poison pen, which I don't care what I say or do. He can do whatever he wants and say whatever he wants about me. My lawyers will keep an eye out on that. He's another kind of guy who's kind of, the minute he can't beat you on the ground, he tries to beat you by saying, well, you're stalking me. You're a public official. Or you're taking pictures of me in public.
Right for the character.
You're a public official.
Right
You're a
for the
public
character.
official. Right?
John, if I was to pick one thing about those two that really, really concern me, if you can go into your show on the Dracut Access TV website and add thousands upon thousands of fake views, if you can go on the DATV website for yourself, check it out, if you can give yourself over 40,000 views, but have not even 100 Facebook followers, what on earth can you do at the ballot box?
Yeah.
That's all I'm saying.
Yeah. It's very true. That's very, you feel the need to be the best person? You feel that need?
Absolutely.
Well, I mean, we espouse that we have over 3,000 people that come to our Facebook page.
And they're all real.
And we get an enormous amount of views beyond my comprehension on why people would look, other than that some of them want to see what we're saying, some of them want to see how much we are bashing them or whatever it is.
You know what, John? It took time. It took time to build it. He just started his show when? How long has his show
not
been
long
around?
ago.
And all of a sudden you have 40,000
But
views.
it's the Allison Janess show, is what it is. It's not, Ion Dracut, by the way, which is.
And who's it funded by? Who's it sponsored by?
Oh, you know who that is. What are you asking me for?
Sorry, I forgot.
Well, who is
Sorry.
it? Who is it?
Isn't it Mr. Lucky over there in
It's the
Lakeview?
one who wants to control the town in so many different ways. But he also bashed Rebecca Duda recently. A person, by the way, who him and his wife tried to smooth.
Multiple times, many
And
times.
he's thanked her on his program several times.
Yeah, see? Yeah. But he bashed her by saying that Rebecca Duda's on the board of, Dracut's board of directors.
School committee.
Oh, the
On
DATV board of
and
directors.
she's on the
yeah.
board of on the school board, but she was a supporter of Phil, and after all, she's one of Phil's besties, right? I mean, her and him are tight as two coats of paint.
I did hear that,
They're
yes.
as tight as two coats of paint. I mean, this was something that people gave me some notes. I watched it a little bit because I wanted to be entertained a little bit, so I watched it a little bit. But what do you think of a person that can do that?
Conform or die.
That's exactly what it's all about. He also mentioned that he couldn't talk about DATV activities, which I found interesting.
That is interesting.
Why not, Phil?
So, until recently, DATV did have a confidentiality policy.
Right. We still have a policy,
There's still a policy.
but it's not as stringent. As
No,
the
so
policy.
essentially we're following the guidelines for any fiduciary of
Right.
for a board of directors,
Right.
which there is an implied confidentiality within the board itself.
Right.
But this overall confidentiality policy, which they kept referring to as a non-disclosure
Right. Agreement.
agreement.
Oh, yeah, which is not true.
Which
That's
is not
what it
true.
was.
The Board of Directors actually voted to remove that confidentiality policy.
Yeah, and let me ask you this question, right? Because
It was nearly
Mr.
unanimous.
Mr. Genest wants to say that he's so truthful and he's so honest, right? And he wants to tell people that, he's telling the truth. But yet he doesn't tell you how he voted on that vote.
He voted against removing the confidentiality
Right.
policy.
Right. So, and even one of his colleagues, I believe, voted.
I believe voted for removing the policy.
Right. So it's what a joke.
Yeah. So
What a joke. I mean, here's a guy that couldn't get an appointment to anything in this town until his wife got on the Board of Selectmen. Right? And under the light of darkness, within a day of a person's resignation from our board, without any kind of advertising for the position.
well, Joe DeRocco did say it was on social media.
Yeah,
So
it was on social media, but it
Social
wasn't.
media now counts as full and true notification by the town.
It's just unbelievable. And then they appointed him the next meeting,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
When there were a bunch of other people that wanted to
Absolutely.
get on the committee too. So, anyways, he also threw a couple of barbs at Warren Shaw as usual, because Warren Shaw doesn't conform to him,
No.
or to his wife, or to Lucky Oil, or Joe DeRocco.
He's just attacking people that he thinks are going to run against his wife.
Well, that's the key.
Yeah.
He's really
he's heard
enticing.
that
He's
Warren may
enticing
run.
people to run, if anything.
Yeah, he's attacking Warren because he's heard maybe he'll run. He thinks
Yep.
Phil will run again, so he's
Right.
just attacking him now.
Right. So, I mean, let's talk a little bit about the bashing that he and Bogue took on Tony Yaczynski. Now, Tony, I want to give full disclosure here, that Tony Yaczynski and I haven't always been on the same page. In fact, national politics, Tony and I couldn't be further apart. But we're still friends. Tony supported me when I ran for Board of Selectmen a couple times. And several times during that particular time that I was on the Board of Selectmen, I didn't agree with Tony on different things. He ended up running against me. And Tony and I went toe to toe on issues, but we're still friends. I don't agree with everything that Tony has ever done, and I'm sure that Tony doesn't agree with everything I've done. And that's okay, because I still like the guy. At least I know that if I'm on a plane and that plane is about to ditch, that I think, and with all my heart, as many times as Tony and I have been opposite, I think that if there was only one parachute on that plane, one extra parachute on that plane, that Tony would invite me to go on the same parachute with him. Okay? And vice versa, I would do that for Tony. So, having said all of that, what they're doing to this guy who had a career as a police officer, and there are those out there in TV land that are probably watching, let's see who's out there, that are going to say, Tony wasn't a good police officer, and there's a lot of reasons why. To have Genest be behind, in my opinion, a FOIA request by a useful idiot, a guy that should be worried about his own FOIA request on his own employment status, all right? And they're pushing this thing. People know Tony. That's why he tops the ticket when he runs. People know Tony. I mean, it's water under the dam. The guy might have done things 30 years ago, as all of us have, that we're not proud of. But Tony recouped. Tony pulled himself up by the bootstraps and made himself into a lieutenant on the police force. When he retired, he was the third highest ranking person in the department, without ever having a sustained or a proven blemish against him. Am I right, Phil?
That is correct. I mean, as we know, anybody in public office or a police officer or even firefighter, you're more than likely going to have a complaint against you because somebody didn't like what you did. But as long as you can say, and Tony can say at the very end that, hey, I followed the rules and I did everything properly, and he's able to say that.
Yeah. In fact, they talked about his cases, his different cases that he had over 30 years, the different things that went on, a shotgun case and a case that happened at Loci, which all of those cases, to my knowledge, were not substantiated. They all ended up being unproven, right? So they continue to leave it out there that, here's a bad guy. Doesn't look good for Tony. Of course it doesn't look good for Tony. It doesn't look good for anybody to have somebody accuse you of something that isn't true.
So
right?
So I would say the information given by his opponents or his enemies, I'll even say, is only half the information. And
Right.
Benjamin Franklin said it perfectly. Half the truth is a great lie.
Yeah, but the problem with that is too, that if they're only hearing half the truth, people start to think it's truth, right? Mm-hmm. So that's why I've always had the ability, in my view, to go back at people. Now, other people have a different stance, a different stance. They want to rise above it and fight it in another way. But I couldn't sit on that board with the chairman of the board whose husband's bashing me, and then she's smiling at him.
Yeah.
I mean, give me a break. Tell us what you really feel, and let the chips fall where they may. I'll tell you right now, I couldn't be the person that Tony is on that board and take that kind of crap and take it from her and Joe DeRocco. And I fought on that board for 9 years. So I know what it's like. And if anybody wants to go back and review old tapes, videotapes, or audio tapes of the selectmen when I was there, and many times on the end of 4-on-1.
4-on-1, yeah.
1 and 4. I mean, they even went after Heather for being your friend.
Yeah.
Heather Santiago is your friend, and you're as close as you can be. And if you can't get the votes from the school committee, you were friendly with the whole school committee when you applied for that position.
Yeah, and I'll say it that as I thought about it, and I had other reasons for withdrawing my name, but it had nothing to do with not having the votes to
Well,
get
be careful, because they can say that, well, maybe that was a conflict of interest. Because you had a conflict of interest. That's why you left.
Well, apparently
the boards.
everything I do in Dracut has a conflict
exactly.
of interest. I guess my interest in Dracut is the conflict.
Conflict of interest.
It's just, and one of the things that Mr. Janess mentioned during that whole conversation was that it's costing, all these lawyers and stuff is costing so much money for the Board of Selectmen. It's over $15,000. Who caused it? Who caused the FOIA request?
He's the kind of guy
Who's causing the appeals?
He's the kind of guy that would kill his parents and then ask for mercy from the court because he's an orphan.
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, this is just a bunch of baloney as far as I'm concerned. And Tony, you're a bigger guy than I am to be able to sit there and take it, or to, wait, let's say, wait your time, because that's okay. But, and these are all things, because I read the FOIA. The sleazeballs delivered it to our show, thinking that we're going to bring it on here, but we wouldn't do that. We wouldn't do it. Not against Tony, even though I had reason to say, well, let's throw Tony under the bus if I was that much of a hater. Right?
John, this might be nitpicking,
Yeah.
okay? But if we went through the work, which we have done before, of doing a FOIA request,
Right.
and we get the information we're looking for, we would at least have the decencies to formulate it into an article, or at least highlight the pieces, and not just release 1,000 documents and tell you to find it yourself.
Right. Or they sit there and they only tell you half the story. They don't tell you the whole story, that, the cases were settled and that his record should have been expunged, but
What type of reporting is that?
it's called Examiner, or what is it? What's the other one there? Inquirer type stuff.
National Enquirer.
Or Eye on Dracut. Whatever.
Black
Whatever. So let's get into a little bit more about the school issue, the school issue that's going on, right? So we have a resignation from Joe Wilkie, correct?
Yes.
Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Well, he didn't finish his whole term, and he retired. He didn't give a reason that I know of. It's publicly, or not publicly anyway, of why he stepped down, and now his position's open, and there's a lot of people interested in it, and I guess they are now taking applicants.
Well, they took applicants.
They took applicants, yeah.
And where did they post that, Phil?
I have no idea.
Yeah.
I do not know.
Where do you think they posted, Richard?
Probably in a little
On the
tiny
bulletin
block on the
board?
bottom of the website.
There's a Cork bulletin board in Town
the
Hall
bulletin
where they
board.
posted it.
It's-
That's true. So unless you go down there
How
every
many people?
day,
How many percentage of the people in Dracut you think go into the
I
town
think
hall
I've
and look
walked
at
by
them?
it a million times. I don't think I've ever looked at it
Now,
maybe twice.
what can we do about getting a DATV live feed of the cork board 24/7?
There you go. There you
We'll
go.
look into that.
But they are following what they believe is the law, and they call that transparency.
The bare minimum.
So they put it on the website. So if you're a person interested in schools, you need to go on the website every day to check for announcements. And then, have you ever went to a website anywhere? And I'm not just criticizing the school or criticizing just the town, because the town website, to me, even though it was an upgrade, it's very difficult to navigate.
I would agree with that.
Have you navigated it?
Yes.
It's very difficult to navigate.
It's better than it was, the old version.
It is, but it's not readily available. The stuff you might
It's
be
hard to
looking for is
find.
not-
The search
I
function
couldn't
doesn't
find the charter on there.
Yep.
I had to
Search
have-
function is
I had to
not
have my
really a search function.
I had to have my person who is the purveyor of all information send me a copy of it. So he provided me with a copy of it. But because I'm frustrated, all I could keep finding is the revisions, not the actual overall document that spelled out a lot more than just the revisions. But they did post it on the website. But it's interesting that there's a timeline, which I'm developing, by the way. So the timeline goes that on a Monday, Mr. Wilkie sends an email to his fellow board members. And in that email, he tells them about that he's intending on resigning and what have you. And they begin to think about what they're going to do. So on a Tuesday or a Wednesday, Mr. Wilkie announces it on his Facebook page, but it's effective on Friday. So unless you're a friend of Mr. Wilkie's and you're interested in replacing him, you don't have any clue of what's going on with the resignation. Then all of a sudden there is a letter that goes from Mr. Wilkie to, I believe, the superintendent of schools, and I have it here somewhere if I can find it. The letter goes to the superintendent of schools, which I found was odd, right? Do you resign to the superintendent of schools? Do you announce your resignation to your subordinate? Or do you resign by sending it to the school board? And even to further that, and I have a call into the Secretary of State for a number of issues. I believe that this resignation should have been sent to the election commission of the
town clerk.
of the town, or the town clerk. So it should have been addressed to the town clerk. Now, I don't have any qualms about, he might have thought that Stephen Stone is his boss, but that's just not the truth. You don't resign to a subordinate. So but he sends a very nice letter about how it was a pleasure working with everybody, and he goes down a whole litany of things. But he really doesn't give a reason why. He just says, middle of his term or the end of his term, 1 year left, he's going to resign. So that's all well and good. That triggers a letter from Jane Boissonneau to the chairman of the Board of Selectmen, Allison Genest. And then that letter is the letter that's posted as notice for the opening, which again, it sounds like to me that it's not really an official posting of a vacancy, right? It's kind of like a notification. This correspondence is to inform you, Allison Janess, that Mr. Joseph Wilkie has resigned effective July 28th, 2023, creating a vacancy on the, and then it goes into the, and according to MGL 41-11 and the Town Charter, Article 7, Section 12, it spells out what the process is. Do you know what the process is, Phil?
So from the town charter, it deals with the number of days that an application posting is supposed to be open, which I believe is 10 days or something like that.
So yeah, so the article that she sends along, because I asked for information on it, and the thing that she refers to as the article, and she talks about the vacancy. If you can just look down there, it talks about 10 days, but the letter spells a different process than that. The letter spells out that the posting notice was August 1st. So it got posted on August 1st. And then she says 10 days, the posting has to be posted for 10 days. And then the vacancy should be filled 14 days, no less than 14 days from the posting. So in that timetable, August 1st, August 11th would have been the 10th day for closing on all applications, and August the 14th would be the day they should have made this appointment. So I think that this process is flawed. What does the article say? It says, if you read down, it talks about with the remaining, it talks about the two boards being together.
Right.
And then it goes in, the selectmen shall fill such vacancy if such board, meaning the board of the school committee board, fails to give notice within a specified time, which they had 30 days to give
They had
notice.
30, right. So
They
the
gave-
school committee had 30 days to notify the clerk and the board of selectmen that there was a
an
vacancy.
opening, right?
Correct.
And then the majority of those officers entitled to vote, meaning the two joint committees meeting
Correct.
together, they had was a majority of the votes of the officers entitled to vote shall be necessary to such election, right? The person so appointed or elected shall be a registered voter of the town and shall perform the duties of the office. But it also says that, talking about the two boards meeting together under Chapter 44A, the remaining members of the school board and the Board of Selectmen, right? And the remaining members shall, not may,
Shall.
shall is a pretty definitive word, right?
That means you will.
And
will.
1 week after the notice, fulfill the vacancy of a roll call, with a roll call vote.
Yep.
So this whole process is flawed.
Yeah, they're not following Massachusetts
They're not
general law.
They're not following the law, and they're not following the charter, which I believe is in conflict with the law.
Right. And
Does it sound-
And when there's a conflict, it's the law that.
It's the law that when
That-
there's a conflict between
Correct.
the two documents, the state law supersedes. So already, the process is flawed.
Shocking.
Right?
Does that
Now-
surprise you?
No, it doesn't. I mean, it doesn't surprise me because I don't know who to blame. I don't know who to point the finger at. I mean, somebody should take the lead, but in Dracut, it's like, oh, that's a school issue. I can't get involved. Or it's a selectman. But I understand that there is a backroom dispute going on about the process. Some people don't believe that the process that's outlined is even the process that should be held, right? Let me see now. I've been talking a lot here, so I'm going to keep talking, right? But the bottom line here is that the school committee believes that they have the process that they outlined that Jane Boysenall put out, right?
Yep.
And then you get all this contradictory stuff about filling a vacancy. But I believe that the real dispute is with the Board of Selectmen, and I can't confirm it yet because not all members of the Board of Selectmen know what's going on behind the scenes. I'm sure there's a small, tight-knit
Which
group.
I suppose is another problem that.
No transparency.
Where the Board of Selectmen themselves are not being transparent with each other.
Right, they're not.
And that's a big problem, if it's true, that's a big problem with the chair.
Exactly. So what I believe they're trying to say, the Board of Selectmen is trying to say, under our bylaws, when there's a vacancy on a board or a committee, they just change the rules, right? And they said that the committee will send a name to them for their choice. And then the Board of Selectmen makes the choice. That's not how an elected board reacts. That's not the process. But I believe that's what's going on. And all through this whole thing, I've tried to get the names of those individuals. Everybody on earth knows that Rob Shepherd is a candidate. Everybody knows that. Everybody knows that Phil Thibault withdrew. I mean, he got his head bashed in on that crazy show on the other, on the cable access, TV. You got your head bashed in because you had the wherewithal to get out of it, but you couldn't get the votes. That's why you got out of it.
They like to speculate a little bit.
Yeah. So the bottom line is that I believe, why is the chairman of the board of the school board holding names? If this was an elected position and it was an election to be held, it's public record, it's public knowledge. This should be, and that's my question to the Secretary of State and the Attorney General's office as to why can't those names. I happen to know who the other person is. There's only 2 applicants. Of course there's only 2 applicants. You advertise in the darkness of night. You didn't put it in the newspaper. I didn't see it in any newspaper. Did you? Did you, Richard?
I did not.
You look at the Lowell Sun.
I do.
You
It was
do,
not
right?
there.
Do you look at the Lowell Sun? I don't get the Lowell Sun, but I do. I know people that do, and I asked them, "Did you see any announcement for that?" No.
Well, John, let me ask you this. Is the school committee the subordinates to the Board of Selectmen, or are they on an equal playing field?
They're co-and-equal.
So why on earth would the Board of Selectmen get to pick a candidate for the school committee?
Exactly.
The school committee does not pick to fill vacancies for the Board of Selectmen, so that seems bizarre.
Chairman, they changed the rules, so they want
I see.
all of those appointments to come to the Board of Selectmen.
So a few years ago, I think people will remember we had a resignation on these library trustees, an elected position. And that went through the process of being notified, and then both boards, the library trustees and the Board of Selectmen, voted on a replacement to fill the remainder of the term.
Okay.
And it's by majority vote.
It's a
correct?
majority vote, a roll call vote.
Right.
So I'm looking, today I got a response from Allison Volpe on, and I can't find it at this particular.
Who's acting chair?
She's the interim chair, yeah. So, yeah, she, we, again, here's the, here's what makes me nervous about people. Why do you not want to tell us who the names are? And why all the secrecy? Because it just raises so much suspicion. And she said that, the 2 interested people were received by the deadline posted as outlined by the assistant town clerk, by the way, who responded for Jane Bolsonaro, who's on vacation, which is, I thank her for that. And the names were not disclosed because each member has not been told or do not know the candidates. Well, do you expect that you're going to have a meeting on August 29th and you're going to hand the names and you expect the Board of Selectmen and the school board to come up with a candidate right then and there? Or do you say, well, I don't like either one of these candidates, I'd like to go back out? Maybe you think about the flawed process and you re-advertise it. Give somebody somebody else an opportunity.
Mass General Law 41, doesn't it state they have to do it within 14 days?
Yeah, well, it says within 7 days of the final posting, which would be close to
August
14 days.
17th would have been. Wouldn't it have been?
Well, August 1st, August 10th. Depends on which process you're looking at.
Oh, okay.
Right? So it's a wholly confusing issue, and we haven't heard the last of it, and we won't hear the last of it. So I have invited Allison Volpe on the show, and to this date, we have not come to any agreement. I still hope that she will come on the show at some point, although I think that I'm being, somewhat
Generous.
arm length with her, but she addresses me as Mr. Zimini, and we've known each other for a while, and I supported her candidacy, and she never referred to me as that then, but.
And as a side
much
note
for
to
that.
mention, we did also invite Joe Wilkie on the program.
Right, and he
didn't-
had a response to you.
No, he did not respond.
No, but he made a comment to you that was a disparaging comment, if you remember. You don't remember that comment that you told me about? Think about it. Richard.
Refresh me.
Oh yeah, I can't think of the whole comment now. It was something about why would he come to the group
Oh, maybe because he's too young.
or whatever. I forget what the comment was. But anyways, let's move on to the next subject here, and that would be I wanted to talk about the appointing. We talked about the appointment, the posting, and what have you, and I wanted to talk a little bit about school issues. What do you think about the issue that's going around the country on parental rights? Where do you think our school board lies on parental rights?
Well, I know where two particular members sit when it comes to parent rights, and I find it horrifying.
Okay.
You know, they have gone on record, at least one of them has, saying that they do not believe parents have a right to know what their children are learning in school, and that parents do not have a say in the curriculum because parents are not educated enough to have that right. And I think it's a very dangerous path, and I think it's a slippery slope, and it's just bringing the country closer and closer to communism, which is exactly what they want.
So where Gordy, do parents' rights end in the schools? Do you think it ends anywhere? Do you think that you should be informed if your child decides that
A boy is a
no,
male,
that
is now a girl?
their biological
Biological
birth gender
sex
is not what it is? Do you think that you should be informed as a parent if a school official, a teacher, or a counselor, or anybody gets that?
I would say yes, because if your son or daughter brings in a knife to school, brings in drugs to school, brings a gun into school, you're going to get notified.
Right.
If they're going to damage themselves, hurt themselves, or hurt another, you're going to get notified. So by changing their sex and taking drugs, that
Can they order an inoculation of a child
they should not be
without
able
the
to.
parents'
They
permission?
should not be able to.
why
I mean,
not?
it's just like anything else. You have to be 18 to vote. You have to be, 21 to smoke cigarettes. You have to be 21 to drink alcohol. You should have to be either. You can debate 21 or 18, whatever, but you should at least, at minimum, have to be 18 and be an adult
Well,
to make that choice.
I will say at Dracut schools, the nurse could not even give me an aspirin without parental approval.
But yet, they can't. They're not supposed to call your parents and tell you that you're having thoughts that you're not not your biological gender.
I think that's evil, and it's completely wrong. A lot of people say, and it says here in this article from the Daily Signal, where a lot of people feel that it is rooted in the sexual grooming of children by teachers. That's a direct quote from this article. Frankly, I don't buy into that. I think it goes back to us taking religion out of school, which we should have never done. All right, it goes back to people wanting to worship themselves, and I think these teachers are doing this because they truly think it's the right thing to do. They truly think that kids have the right to choose their own gender without their parents' knowledge.
But Richard, there's parents out there that don't think you have a right to form your opinion.
Isn't it wild how that works? Isn't it so interesting?
Because
It's a full circle. It's a full circle.
Exploiting fights at
But
the high school.
but you know what, John? If I wanted to come on this program wearing a dress,
Yeah.
and you said no, there'd be protests outside of Dracut Access Television.
Right.
And John, I don't know if you remember a few years ago that a Dracut teacher was fired for passing
sexual
out
survey.
sexual surveys.
Right.
So
Exactly.
the science class, I don't remember. If
That's
you
just a
remember.
few short years ago.
Right.
That person lived on my street, by the way.
Yes.
Yeah. Exactly. And that's how fast we've evolved on this whole thing.
And there was a lot of pushback.
By the way, before we get accused of bashing transgenderism, I don't care what you dress like. I don't care who you think you are. I really don't. I have friends who are gay. I have friends who are transgender that say they're women when they're men and vice versa. And I don't care. I don't judge you for that. But you don't push that on me that I have to, I accept what you are doing and what you want to be. But I'm not, when it comes to a parental right, I think that the parent needs to know.
I think the notion...
And help the student, help the person.
Give them mental health help, actually,
Give them
absolutely.
support whatever way they give it.
But the notion that you can say to me that you're the opposite gender and that I am forced to accept that's just plain silly.
Right.
Like you said, you have the right to do whatever you want in your free time. Go to whatever clubs you want, do whatever you need to do. But you do not, your right ends where mine begins. And that comes to the public schooling or, going on field trips or things like that, where you do not have the right to expose my children to things like that. You don't.
Yep.
Or if your child thinks they're a vampire and brings blood to school and drinks blood while they're in school because they think they're a vampire. Should they be allowed to do that because they think they're a vampire?
Well, Bill Maher said that, when he was when he was 8 years old, he wanted to be a pirate. And he's just thankful that they wouldn't, amputate his leg and pull out his eye, so he could fulfill that dream.
Isn't it so bizarre that we live in a time where if a boy went to school wearing a dress or a girl goes wearing a suit or whatever, that's okay. But if you're having a Halloween party at school and a little boy wants to be a cowboy with two pistol revolvers, the school would go in lockdown.
Or if you wear a Make America Great Again hat to school.
Or a Trump mask or something on Halloween. Forget about it.
Oh, no, exactly.
I did get yelled at for that, actually.
So we're coming up on the last few minutes. Gordy, you had something about the Dracut police made an announcement on some.
Yeah, so back in July, there was some BB gun shootings on Nashville Road.
Oh, yeah.
There was 3 incidents on, I believe it was July 15th. 3 separate cars got hit by BB guns, and then the next day, some windows got shot out on Nashville Road, apartment buildings. So I did a little research on this, and I found this was a challenge that was put out on Instagram for kids to do this, and it happened, in pretty much every state across the country. Some kids did it with pellet guns. Some, that's where it started with a pellet gun. Some kids did it with paintball guns, and they were shooting cars as they go down with paintballs and hitting cars with paintballs. So it was kind of one of those almost like an ice bucket challenge. They send these out every once in a while. These kind of things.
Well, I think the town was having trouble with vandalism with toilets and restrooms and stuff, where that was a challenge that was put out.
Flush a firecracker or something down the drain.
So the solution to that is close all the bathrooms.
Right.
Yeah, right.
Punish the masses because of the fear, right? That's the solution. Are the bathrooms open now? I don't
think so. I don't think so.
They don't open. We spend $800,000 to build a bathroom, and then we can't use them. Oh, they look pretty, though. And they look good. And the architectural design only costs about $200,000 to get it there.
$70,000.
$70,000, whatever
That's
it is.
not saying that there's never a good reason to close bathrooms, right? There used to be one, I heard, over at the John Street garage in Lowell, but they had to shut it down because it turned into a safe shoot-up zone.
Yeah.
So we're not saying that there are never good reasons, but at some point you have to draw a line.
There are good reasons to do it, but there's not good reasons to do it forever.
Sure.
There are solutions to it.
Oh, we got a message from Sean Kelly.
Okay.
He says, Starbucks coming to town?
Yes.
Yes.
From what
Oh,
we
great. I
understand.
can get a
Go ahead,
$7 coffee right here in town?
Yeah. So
what's the difference?
So the
We're paying
corner,
that now,
the
right?
corner of Pleasant Street and Lakeview Ave in Arlington, essentially Dracut Center, right across from the Yolo Meeting Church, where Wendy's currently is. There's a development going through, I believe, the planning board right now, and it's for a rebuilt, renovated Wendy's. It's going to be smaller. But there's going to be a second building on the site because they purchased the Coburn House that was behind it. The Coburn House has been demolished. But it's going to be another standalone building, and Starbucks is one of the tenants.
That's going to be great for traffic.
Ooh, right there. It's gonna be
Another
horrible.
coffee shop.
Yeah,
In the
that's
morning,
what we need.
in the mornings, it's going to be great to go up that road.
To some degree, the Starbucks is on the wrong side of the road for a morning commute.
Yes.
Yes.
So people,
But-
good luck if you're coming from Pelham trying to take a left in that building.
They're going to have to build that property up too if they're going to.
Yeah, I've seen some design drawings for it, and it looks nice.
okay.
It's certainly some economic development within that section of town.
So is anybody surprised that Biden has embraced Bidenomics? What is Bidenomics doing to us, Gordy? Put it up on the screen.
Oh, sure. I got a picture here. If you can bring that up. You can see here the price of goods just keep going up. You know, the biggest one on there is air travel, and I think anyone, you know, in his speech to his what's it called, the State of the Union address,
Yep.
he said we're going to lock down these airlines, and they got to be up front with all the fees, pricing, so they can't charge for seats and they can't charge for luggage. Well, I just booked a flight, and they're still charging for seats, and they're still charging for luggage.
Right.
And the prices are, I think it's almost twice as high.
What's
but
the price
this
of
shows-
eggs? How much percentage is the price of eggs?
Eggs are up 30%, almost.
So my
31%.
question to the public is, are you better off today than you were 4 years ago?
The gas that was $1.89.
$1.89 and it's approaching $4. Diesel's over that. Diesel right now is like four something, $4.19 or something like that. So I mean, it's just outrageous. Now, has anybody seen the news or heard? Or are you surprised by the news that the Russian President Putin shot down a plane today that was carrying his nemesis from the Wagner group?
I was surprised.
Did you
I
hear
was.
that? Yeah.
I'm surprised that he was
video? I don't know
he
if
was
people
still
play it.
alive to be shot down.
Well, you know what? I feel like he usually has a more subtle style than shooting down planes. He usually pushes people out of windows or poisons their coffee.
Yeah,
So-
but he usually does it on another.
He's getting
continent,
desperate.
on another continent. But he did it right outside of Moscow. How long is that video?
A minute.
A minute. We don't have time to show it, but we'll show 30 seconds of it. Let's show this plane crash. This is from Sky News.
Не видать. Вон, около фермы. Горим.
So Sky News reported, and multiple news sources, ABC, NBC, they all reported that this happened. At first it was, there's been an accident over Russia. But then...
There's never an accident in
before
Russia.
Before the commentator even finished the conversation, he said that it was shot out of the sky.
Yep.
And that Putin was already doing a dance wherever he was that it happened. He was already doing his victory dance, so to speak. So when asked about the shooting, the downing of the plane, President Biden had nothing to say about it.
I just got to the gym for an hour and a half with this guy.
Yeah, he was in Pilates.
Pilates.
How many folks do you know are in Pilates and do the,
I mean, how many days of vacation is it?
so out of touch.
He's been out on vacation for 4 weeks.
Folks, you got to see the sound of the
Freedom.
sound of freedom. I went and saw it with my wife the other day.
Yes.
Very moving, very, very good show, and it really puts modern day slavery in its contents, right, Richard?
Absolutely.
It's a $150 billion business in the United States and across the world. So with that, we have nothing else. We've got to get going here. We're out of time again.
Quick, just-
Gordy, take us away.
All right, everyone at home, thanks for watching the show. We really enjoy you watching us and giving us feedback on our Facebook page. If there's something there that we didn't get a chance during the show to respond to, we'll check it after the show and we'll try to get back to you as best we can. And just remember, when it's Wednesday and it's 6:30, it's What's Happening Dracut. Good night, Dracut.
Good night, everybody.
Good night.